Games, Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life here with another episode of The Nasties. And we are going to be covering one of the most difficult ones to talk about. It is Possession, the 1981 psychological horror, drama, art house, film. There's so many different ways to describe this. We're going to have a hard time talking for the plot, but we're going to do it the best we can. It was directed by Andrzej Zulawski, written by him as well, and Frederick Tuten, and stars Isabel Adjani and Sam Neill. Yes, that is Sam Neill of Jurassic Park, Event Horizon, lots of other films. I have seen Sam Neill in his early career work. Obviously, The Omen 3. In fact, I'm going to quickly check while I have this open. What was Omen 3 before or after? So his first 1975. Okay. Same year. Omen 3, The Final Conflict, and Possession. So the same year.
Not, go back.
It was 1981. 1981.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at it. Sorry.
Yes, 1981. So basically, the outline part of this film, the plot basically is a relationship between a husband and wife who are on the verge of splitting up. Yeah. She's incredibly erratic. He's a strange one in himself, and the events surrounding that. A lot of it, you'd think this is barely even a horror in the conventional sense.
It's more drama.
And then there's strange twists and turns along the way. I think this was brilliant. I love this film. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of its 2 hours and 3 minutes run. So a long one as well. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed certain characters. But I loved the plot. I loved how mad and juicing it was, how wonderfully shot it was. I really, really fell in love with this.
I just didn't like the dialogue was awful. It was trying to throw too much into it. I couldn't follow some of the dialogue because it was just too erratic. Some of the characters were good. Sam Neill overacts and it's just really, no. Her Possession, she's a good actress, the one that played the main character. But just overall, I didn't enjoy it. Didn't like it.
We are very, very polarising on this. Like I said, I think this might be up there as one of my favourite Nasties now. But we should say, don't really get it.
I
don't get how it's a nasty.
We said, mention homoerotic suggestions, perhaps? Right,
let's just quickly say, we'll get into what we think might have been the case. But first off, this was one of the non-prosecuted nasties. And in fact, has been available uncut since 1999. The film was very controversial when first released and heavily edited for distribution in the US. It had an initial theatre release in the UK, but then got caught up in the Nasty scandal. But then, like we said, uncut since 1999, and has now got a bit of a minor cult following.
Is it because of the word possession, religious overtones? There's a couple of scenes that I feel like the domestic abuse bit of it. There's a possession part where she vomits.
So I don't see them, because those things I don't believe are, like, think of the other ones we've watched and compare what's been cut.
Yeah.
Now, all I can go on is I actually suspect that this may have just been caught up in the panic and may not have been, because it's very real, I think, a lot of the time. So there is domestic violence. There's a lot of stuff involving around a kid. Screaming and shouting and stuff like that. There's an implication at the end that the kid kills himself at the very, very end, drowns himself in a bath.
After being, I think it's like a continuation of possession.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is,
it's dark.
Yeah, there are some incredibly graphic descriptions more than anything else. There's some graphic deaths in how it's done rather than gore in other ways.
Yeah.
But it's hard to pinpoint where it would have been cut.
Yeah. It's not cartoon.
Very
horror.
Realistic.
Yeah, and I think maybe that the
creature,
the setting of it, the creature of it, it's all just a bit grim, isn't it? Really.
If I can think of one scene that might have been cut or edited, it's the sex scene. You actually see a sex scene between this tentacle monster and Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be, but it's very hard for us to pinpoint. So it's one that I think here's the thing: I don't think it's tame. I don't think this is like, oh, you should check this out, and you won't. Because it's very dark tone, very realistic horror, very realistic drama, that it leaves you very, very cold, I think. The finale is very realistic. in regards to like getting shot and stuff like that. So I think you could have a very uncomfortable time watching this. Yeah. Uncomfortable is the right word. I
think that's maybe, I suppose that in true sense of it, nasty, that could go under that. Yeah, I say like there's been quite a long scene where she's screaming and being possessed, and I think it's like in another tunnel scene. I think that's quite a prolonged, horrible watch.
True.
So yeah, I can see why it's on there when you break it down, but not as much as when we watch our films and gone. That's definitely gonna get you in trouble.
Absolutely, so. Yeah. No, I think it's harder to identify, but you know, we know this series well enough where it's like, okay, there are things. So the Blu-ray, we get bonus features. You get The Other Side of the Wall, The Making of Possession, audio commentary with the director, and audio commentary with co-writer. You get a director interview. You get Repossessed, a comparison with the US recut featuring scenes absent from this director's cut.
Oh.
That would just make it longer, which would be worse for you. A Divided City, the Berlin locations. The Sounds of Possession, interview with the composer about his working relationship with the director. Our Friend in the West, an interview with the legendary producer Christian Ferry. And Basha, featurette and the artist who created the famed poster for Possession and the theatrical trailer. So the poster's very, very cool. So, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
The stars are Mark, which is Sam Neill, who turns out, I didn't pay enough attention at the start, is a spy.
Yeah.
Who had been on a trip to West Berlin. So it's set in Berlin, the wall is still up, the city is divided. So he's been away for some time, and he returns to find his wife, Anna, who is played by Isabel Adjani, and she's changed. Yeah. Like, she now wants a divorce, and he can't quite put his finger on why. It's very civil at first, you know, but he loves her to death, it would seem. But she wants, and he wants to know why, obviously suspecting infidelity. But she insists it's not the case, basically. He agrees that she can stay at the apartment and look after their young son, Bob. And he basically fucks off and goes on a good old bender for about 3 or 4 weeks, it seems.
Looking by the beard. And,
he's very unkempt in a hotel room and all that. He seems to just snap out of it. Seems to get his senses about him.
Yeah.
And goes back home to visit his wife and his son. But he finds Bob alone, who's been left alone. He's unkempt, he's lost weight. And the kid's not being looked after, basically. No. Mark's not happy. One of the things I will say about this is Mark always comes across as a good father.
He does, yeah. I mean, I will give him that, but it's just I just sometimes feel like the way he kind of says things is a bit. I don't like it. I just don't like the way he says certain things. But yeah, you can't give him that. I mean, he doesn't want when they go down the line of divorce. He obviously doesn't want to see the kid because of.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of talking about what they're going to do now.
Yeah.
And we talk about how well it's shot and stuff like that. Like, this incredible, love this scene in a cafe where they don't sit opposite each other. They sit on separate tables with almost like backs to each other, and the wicked framing of them in the centre gets very, very heated then and stuff like that.
If I lived in the local neighbourhood to these two, if I lived next door, I was in that cafe, I'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, these two again. They can't talk on a normal level.
Oh, they're screaming at each other constantly.
It's like, if I went for a nice cup of coffee, you know, fancy a quick, nice, relaxing day out. No, these two come along. Back home, they're screaming at each other. I'll be moving straight out. I'll go the other side of the wall.
It is very, very hard to watch in the sense that you're watching because they play it so well. Both Sam Neill and I keep forgetting her name, and
Anna.
Isabel Adjani do absolutely wonderful work here. They really, really do. It does
feel a bit sort of like play to it, like a play.
It does. It does. Like
which can take away from it, but it was a bit overacting, like and scene.
There is that early on. I got that early on, but the difference was I bought into it. And ended up falling in love with that aspect.
I just quickly went my head around some of the dialogue.
So many flourishes on the end of a sentence. I adore it, you know, and stuff like that. I love it. We'll get to the standout character for that. But anyway, after finding the boy alone, he stays when Anna comes back, and basically he's pissed off.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking after the kid and all that, and they sort of try to make up here. She kind of admits about seeing someone else and all that. Yeah. He's constantly pushing for more details that she doesn't want to give him. But it looks like they're going to make up. It implies they don't sleep together, but they sleep in bed naked with each other.
Yeah.
What's it called? But she leaves in the middle of the night, which obviously pisses him off.
Yeah.
He then gets a phone call from her supposed lover, who she named as Heinrich.
Yeah.
And this is Heinrich calling Mark to tell him that Anna is with him.
Yeah.
Let's call it. Obviously, this is Mark's obsession with always wanting to know more about this person and so on. You know, finding out she's there and stuff like that. It's very, very realistic.
Yeah, I suppose anyone would be like, I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
Like, fucking new guy in the scene. Yeah.
But when Anna's not around, it's almost like he's able to get on with life. Because he starts looking after Bob properly. He takes him to school where he meets Bob's teacher, who is Helen, who is basically identical to Anna, but with different colour eyes, which kind of surprises Mark and kind of creates an attraction to her.
Yeah.
It's actually played by the same actress, which is strange.
They style their hair different, don't they?
Yeah. And eventually Mark finds out where Heinrich lives, and he meets Heinrich. Oh my
God,
goodness me. Heinz Bennett plays him. And seriously, I watched this film for Heinrich. It's fucking brilliant. He's fucking brilliant. His character is that he is at peace with himself. He is overtly sexual, but he sees Mark as an ally in helping him be with Anna as much as anything else.
Yeah.
He never treats him as a villain. He almost treats him like a friend. He's very sexual towards Mark. When they first meet, they're touching each other, grabbing each other's hands. It is glorious. He moves like he's dancing. Like he'll go against the wall and it'll be like that, and it's incredible to watch. He lights up the screen.
Yeah, I say he's definitely a character. There's just bits when he's drunk and like he's got obviously a very strong German accent.
Yep.
And he's spinning around this long, drawn out, over the top, and I can't do both. Like I can get you drunk, like you're slurring. Like why are you doing the whole spinning? It's just annoying, like, irritating.
We differ very in this. The scene between Mark and Heinrich when they're first discussing, the camera swoops and spins all the way around them. I was in love with it.
Yeah.
I was in love with it. It was just like, this is, I'm bought into this. They fight. Mark gets his ass kicked a little bit. Pissed off, he returns home, finds Anna, and this is one of those domestic violence parts where he just beats the shit out of Anna quite heavily, slapping her across the face several times, which results in her leaving bloodied and all that. Some great scene in the street, well shot again.
Shouting again.
Yeah, shouting. He's following her. She's got a bloody face, screaming at him. She looks like she's going to attempt suicide, but then stops short of it and causes a truck to crash. I always wonder now in reflection, was that the kind of possession angle where briefly she got control and wanted to end her life because of it, and then it pulled her back? Possibly.
Yeah, and I feel like they're planning the whole thing of possession double meaning. Because obviously, like, Mark's so obsessed with her, like, over the top so. But when she's not there, he can get on with stuff.
Yep.
Like, when she's there, it seems like she's got hold over him.
Yep.
And when she's not, he seems to kind of get on with things a little bit more. And even though he tries to go down a new route, it's something exactly like her.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's double, again, very pretentious, I thought.
Well, I wouldn't say pretentious, but they do play that later on where he starts to see her in a different light, as if the hole's beginning to break. So again, like there's a constantly, back and forth, and it's now like the next day or sometime after, and she's come home again. Yeah. And she's cutting up food with an electric knife, and she cuts her throat. He helps her bandage up. It's a loving moment between them, supposedly, but then she leaves again. Yeah. And he cuts himself this time with an electric knife. Yeah. The same electric knife cutting his arm.
Again, probably part of the possession thing.
Well, it was the fact she keeps coming and going. Coming and going, which is obviously leaving him very, very confused. He ends up hiring a PI, a private investigator. Oh my goodness me. This PI, I can't. He's the worst private investigator ever. He follows her all over town.
10 yards behind her?
If that. He might as well be breathing down her shoulder. He is absolute shocker of a PI. But he ends up finding, she goes to this derelict apartment building.
I think it's wicked. I love the building.
Quite close to the wall, actually, at a certain point. And finds it in a flat there. He then decides to play that he's like the tenant or the landlord of the building.
Checking windows.
And he does good in this. But he insists on checking the bathroom. She said there's no window in there. He's like, I have to check it, because he's thinking he's going to find her with a lover. Yeah. And what he actually finds in there is a really bizarre, bloody creature. Yeah, like it's a mess of things in there. And Anna ends up killing him, stabbing him in the neck. This is maybe a part that you could say would have been edited, because it's quite violent. Like broken bottle in the neck.
Yeah, a couple of times, not just once. repeated. So again, repeated use of violence like that would be another tick on their list
Mm-hmm.
of things we've seen before.
And at the head of that, the person that Sam Neill's character, Mark, first went to, he then wants to find out where his private investigator's gone missing, talks to Mark. Mark doesn't know. No, Mark knows the address. He got told the address by the PI. And this other detective goes off to find. Again, awful at his job. Ends up going to a flat and finds Anna, the monster, and his PI's body.
Yeah.
He ends up getting killed.
Yeah.
He gets shot to death, basically. Yeah. And then it's basically focused on Anna and Mark, really, which leads to one of the most unusual scenes you'll ever see. Very, very long and very, very strange. Where Anna and her erratic, obviously, behaviour, she basically tells Mark how she suffered a miscarriage walking down a subway. And it's a good 3-4 minutes long of her jerking around violently. Like, it's like interpretive dance.
Yeah, screaming, like, it looks painful. And then she kind of like crouches down and you see like, it starts off looking like a bit of blood and it's sort of like pus.
From her ears,
mouth, nose, and it all pulls. And when it pulls around her feet, you can see it. Blood and pus it's probably my favourite part of the whole film because it is genuinely like, it takes it away from like being whatever I didn't like about it to this has been absolutely horrific. And fair play to her. Like, must have been exhausted filming that.
Yeah.
Absolutely exhausting.
Yeah, it must have been. It's
one scene as well. One take.
There's one cut after the first start, but the majority of it afterwards
probably
isn't.
Like set up all the liquid, probably.
But yeah, it's intense. It is intense, and it just keeps going on, and you're like, where the fuck is this going? Yeah, so like she miscarried what you presume then is that creature's child.
Yeah.
She describes it as miscarrying Sister Faith, and what left was Sister Chance. She says that comes up a bit. We get more scenes with Heinrich and Mark. That's when he turns up drunk. You're all right about the problem is, as I said during the film, had this been able to use modern sound capabilities, it'd be even better. The problem is it can't. It's an 81 film, so there are sound issues, particularly with dialogue, particularly with a strong German accent, and drunk.
Yeah, especially like spinning around down the stairs and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't understand what he's saying.
But it's great. It's great. Because Mark kind of takes pleasure at this point in teasing Heinrich. It's like he doesn't see him as much of a rival, which is funny in itself. Because but Heinrich sees Mark as a kindred spirit. It's strange, very very strange behaviour. But anyway, Heinrich ends up finding out the address, and Mark calls Heinrich's mother to pass the address on to Heinrich. Heinrich goes to visit Anna, and that's when again he discovers the creature as well as dismembered body parts. He actually gets attacked and stabbed by Anna, but manages to escape. He calls Mark and wants Mark to come pick him up, basically, at some seedy bar nearby.
Yeah.
Mark, before he goes to Heinrich, goes to Anna's apartment, where everything's gone.
Yeah.
Nothing's there. There's no proof. But he decides to kind of clean it up anyway. He sets it on fire.
Just to clear it anyway.
Clear it up. Basically, he's going to try and cover for his wife. I think it's a combination of maybe that possession angle, but also that he loves her and he thinks he can win her back by covering for her.
Yeah.
Thinking that she's just been killing people.
Yeah.
When he meets Heinrich in the bar, they go to the toilets, do a lot of talking, and basically, poor Heinrich, he meets his end here.
Yeah.
Mark decides to stage his death, make it look like an accident, in a pretty horrible way.
Yeah, it's a grotty old toilet.
Yeah, so he's
heavy toilet seat, isn't it?
Yeah, he knocks. Not quite the worst toilet in the world.
Oh yeah,
which is train spotting, but pretty rough anyway. And he makes it worse by grabbing a shoe and blocking up the toilet, so filling the water up, then vomiting into it to make it look like vomit. Then he knocks Heinrich out, smashing him with the top of the cistern lid. And then puts Heinrich face first into this.
Yeah, I forgot about the vomit part.
Yeah, so it looks like Heinrich basically, and then he scatters Heinrich's drugs around the room. So it looks like Heinrich was on drugs, came in, threw up, drowned in his own vomit.
Yeah.
And then he pulls the flush so the blood and all that starts coming out. It's pretty fucking horrible. Yeah. It's very dark. And sorry, Heinrich, we'll see you later, mate.
Go on.
He then takes Heinrich's motorcycle and heads back to home, where his Anna's friend Margie has been periodically looking after Bob, so Bob's not left on his own. But as he arrives home, Margie comes out of the lift, having had her throat slashed. Yeah. He picks her up, brings her inside, and that's what Anna is. She brought everything home, basically, including the creature. They don't see it here. What's it called? They end up actually having sex here.
Yeah.
Anna and Mark, they have sex in the kitchen. And he agrees that he's going to sort of help her cover up the Margie's death. Margie's death. He tells her to go to Margie's place. We didn't get like putting the body away and all that. He goes to Margie's where he then finds Anna having sex with the creature. This is what I talked about at the start. It's a bit more human-like here, less gooey.
It's kind of like it's taking on stuff.
Yeah, it's like whatever it's taking. It's when she's killing, it's taking form, creation, and stuff like that. I did notice something here via the head that it looked like a certain person from behind, but it's got tentacles and all that. It's not overtly graphic, but it is, you know, a sex scene.
Yeah,
a sex scene nonetheless. What's it called? She keeps saying the word almost over and over again here. He watches, obviously, in shock and almost disgust as well at this point. What's it called? Heinrich's mother starts calling Mark here. And she knows, she wants to know what happened to Heinrich. But she keeps talking about his soul not coming home, soul not coming home. So she knows he's dead. Mark goes to visit her. She's basically got like a bit of precognition almost.
Yeah.
Where she says, like, you're here to kill me. And he's like, look, I was gonna, but I'm not sure now. She says you don't have to, that kind of thing. And ends up committing suicide by poisoning herself. And that's that, really.
That's the end of it.
We get this impression as if Heinrich's soul comes in because the window opens when she dies, or she goes out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Almost like shell-shocked to a point. Mark's sort of wandering the streets. I presume at this point he's torn, as a character he's kind of torn.
Yeah.
And he ends up meeting up with his former business associates who sent him on a mission at the very start of the film.
Yeah.
They want him to kind of continue, like he wanted to leave and kept saying he's my person who's coming after me, whatever, what do you call that? Successor.
Yeah.
But they're saying, like, there isn't anyone, we need you. And he rejects them. He rejects them. This seems to them, I guess in the spy business, you don't get to leave.
No.
Because they use...
know too much.
And they imply they know what's going on with him and his wife. So when he arrives at Margie's, the police are already there.
Yeah.
The police are there and his associates. Obviously, they're like, well, we've got to clean up this mess. We can't have one of our spies doing this.
Yeah.
He ends up staging a distraction which allows Anna to escape, but the body of Margie falls out of the boot of the car. She escapes. He goes to drive off, gets shot in the shoulder. What's it called? He ends up crashing a pretty bad accident and gets badly hurt, where he follows Anna into a building. They're basically being chased by the police at this stage. It's a well shot again up the stairs. We're coming to the end, and this is where Anna sort of gets shot as well. Yeah. They both get riddled with bullets, where it's also revealed that the creature is now fully formed and is actually Mark's doppelganger.
That was a cool twist.
Yeah, it looks exactly like him. Yeah. While they're riddled with bullets, the bullets don't seem to do any damage to the creature.
It's pretty. It does kind of like, that's how it kind of carries on going. Because it reproduces.
Yeah. As they're dying, what's called Mark does try to kill the creature, but they get shot by the police. As they're dying, Anna gets on top of Mark and uses a gun to shoot herself in the back, and to shoot him, but it doesn't quite work. Obviously, he ends up. She dies, but he ends up throwing himself over the top of the stairwell, falling to his death. The doppelganger just walks up and leaves via the roof. We then cut to the finale where the teacher is looking after Bob at another place. The doorbell rings. We see the shadow of Mark, which is obviously the doppelganger. Bob tells her not to open the door. Because she goes to open it anyway. This is where Bob runs off and throws himself in the bath face down and just floats there.
Yeah.
But before Helen can open the door, you hear all these sirens and explosions filling the air. And the doppelganger's on the other side of the door, almost like touching it. Yeah. And it kind of flashes in her eyes that are green. And that's how the movie ends. I'm not too sure what it implies at the end. What does it imply? Like an invasion?
I think that the boy knows. Or the boy might be possessed too, or there's
definitely some kind of mental telepathy going on here, which is about encouragement or making you lose your mind as a slave and stuff like that.
So I think maybe the dad might have said to the boy, "Go and kill yourself."
Yep.
And he's going to kind of end up being tricking Helen for a little while.
But then what are all the explosions and sirens going on outside? As if like there's a war kicking off. See what I mean?
I don't know. It's linked to his spy stuff. Like,
could be.
The stuff that the job that he was on was so important. It just kind of deteriorated.
Could be.
So.
Could be. I mean, I've tried my best to talk through this plot. We are glossing over many, many details. It is over a 2-hour movie. With a lot of other detail, a lot of focus on arguments, the relationship between Mark and Anna. There's a lot more detail regarding the teacher. He meets her several times. They almost have sex at one stage. You know, elements where it looks like Anna's holding Mark is beginning to break when, after having a conversation, he says something to her like, "For the first time I see you, Anna, I feel nothing but like disgust or loathing and stuff like that." And I was like, oh, so that's the whole breaking.
Over it.
He's moving on. But obviously it ends up never really happening because of the events. It's not
cheesy.
It's not a well put together story.
No. I said at the beginning, there's too much jammed in. Like, it's like they got the drama between the wife and the husband. They've got the spy plot. They've got the monster. It was too much going on. Yeah,
it's odd, like I said, because the monster doesn't play a pivotal role in it really until the last 30 minutes, so to speak, and the majority is just the drama between a woman losing her mind and her husband, and stuff like that, with elements around that. A shit ton of wacky elements, characters, and plot points and moments. It is called an art house film for a reason. It is very much what you would think of.
I've not seen many, so I think that's why it sit with me. I just found the dialogue. It found it really hard to kind of get involved in it. I'm like, don't like how it's sitting.
Don't watch this if you're tired.
Yeah, I was a bit tired.
That's a very important element.
I would put my hand up saying that, but when I started watching it, when Hyrick come in, and just feel like I did like his character.
Be still my beating heart, man.
It was nuts, but just the ongoing, like, when they had arguments, it wasn't just a straightforward discussion. It was all like, oh, I see the winter's coming. It was all kind of like really. No, I didn't like it.
I think the good outweighs any of the bad, right? So let's, we've already talked at length about the acting. I think the acting, ignoring, let's say you don't like Heimlich because you think it's overacting, but the acting from Sam Neill, Isabella Adjani, amazing stuff. Isabella Adjani, wow.
Yeah, she was cool.
Wow, what does she do in this? I think this is arguably now my favourite. Not that I have many, because I don't really rate Sam Neill as an actor anyway, but this is up there as my favourite performance of his.
No, I just recently watched a film called The Hunt for the Wilder People, and Sam Neill was like the best thing about that film. So
that's great. I'm glad to see, because I think he's also very good in The Omen 3. I think he's a highlight in that. It's weird that his later career would result in so many average movies when you contrast it to what he was doing when he was younger.
This just feels like I just feel like a bit overacting. I think he was given this role as part of I can't describe it. I'm guessing he did theatre work before this.
I'm going to presume he may have done,
It feels a bit too theatre-y for me, and I couldn't get on board.
Well, just checking the filmography of Isabella Adjani, and she's done incredible work. She's the only actress or actor in history to win 5 César Awards. Wow. She won Best Actress for Possession. Incredible work.
Oh, Lorraine Margot. I've heard about that one. I think that's quite a nasty film.
She was made a Chevalier of the Legion of Honour in 2010 and a Commander of the Order of Arts and Letters in 2014. This woman has had an extensive career. I'm very pleased that I got to see her work. Truly immense stuff. Acting, I cannot fault. I really can't. You call it overacting. I get what you're saying, but for me, it fit the tone of the movie.
I think if the dialogue was more straightforward, I think I could have dealt with the acting, but just together, it really didn't do well for me.
Well, we have different views on that.
Yeah.
So then we have the visual aesthetics of the movie, not just the shooting, but also the location. I love the location. The divided city of Berlin, the constant imagery of the wall. It creates this incredible disconnect, but also one where you got a metaphor for the characters. This wall between the two.
Yeah, I really like that. I've never seen much set in Berlin at that time. I've seen people
pre-war time.
Yeah, I've never seen that. It's really cool to see, and obviously you can see the style of the buildings. You see the new kind of flats they had built, and the one where Anna goes with the creature in sort of like old pre-war kind of time.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like the setting of it.
Yeah, setting fantastic. What a wonderful shot to really showcase the city as much as anything else. I know you didn't get on with a lot of the swirling and swooping camera angles, but I adored them. It really, really, really made me feel very, very there and part and parcel of this madness that is constantly going on. Gore-wise, I think I'm the same as you. I think we both agree on this. It's not overtly gory, But when it does, it looks very, very real, very visceral, and just gross.
Yeah,
Gross.
I won't forget that miscarriage in the subway scene.
I think that's some
anytime soon, because it was just like because it didn't know where it was going to go after that screaming part. I thought she might have just run into the wall and knocked herself out.
Yep.
Because of the something going on in her head, but the fact. I was like, oh, what's that coming out of her? Oh, God, it's all coming out of her, all of her
orifices. Yeah,
that's a nice word.
Yeah, it's for me, all of that good there so outweighs the negative, which is a bit of a contrived plot, sometimes overtly silly, sometimes dragged out. I do think it could have had 15, 20 minutes snipped off here and there, some scenes shortened here and there, maybe taken 15 minutes off for a more concise and tighter product, and it might have made it easier to watch. Because don't get me wrong, even the last 30 minutes, I was flagging, but I was so like, no, you will pay attention because you have been thoroughly enjoying this so much. Let's get to this finale and see how this pans out. For me, this is, to date, the best one we've done. I always thought Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Evil Dead were probably likely to be near the top of the rankings when it came to the finale of all of them. But this, to me, is an 8 out of 10, maybe even a 9 out of 10 movie.
So I still think Zombie Flesh Eaters is still like my absolute favourite of what I've seen so far.
We definitely differ on that. I love Possession. If you do, let me know in the comments. If you agree with Lou and maybe you got thoughts on it, let us know. But either way, brilliant movie. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for? Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?